So, wow. So, today, man, the energy is pretty insane right now. Energy was so insane that I got really tired. My dog just finally took a major poop on her own, and it was like her fecal plug just went whoosh, and it was all brown. It was all brown. And so that is good, I think. That's good. And so yeah, so my book is finally out, and it might seem like a little disorganized. I'm putting it out without any kind of like major event to build up. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Building up to a major event of this book launch is like it, people are gonna figure out, they'll get the book in different ways, Amazon or this way, through Balboa or through the other distributors that are out there. And I did have access to ebook. Tomorrow I'll be talking to my publishing consultant or marketing consultant or whatever consultant to figure out the ins and outs. But I wanted to put it out there so you guys saw the cover. You guys can read the back or read whatever that's written, in that. And a lot of you, already know what to do. So, I mean, if you buy the book, great. If you wait for the Amazon, that's so awesome. If you wait for the cheaper version, please do. Because this is going to be out there forever, and then another book will be out there. And I don't plan to take anything down anymore. As far as I'm not retracting anything more. Everything is going to be out there. That's out there right now. And that will be out there in the next however many days. And so, yeah. Oh my gosh. And so, yes, my dog taking a, excuse me, a major poopies. And today I just feel like I feel like I've been on adrenaline the last couple of days. And so I took a major nap this morning. And, so when I woke up from my nap and my dog got off the couch and they went outside and they came back and just did a complete poopy everywhere. I was like, and then that's where that email came through. And then my husband called. He was like, why did you want me back at around 11? So I'm like, because I just woke up from a nap because I needed the sleep. I needed it. Okay. So, and I know that Sarah Farnell asked about why is it that people were using food as medicine a long time ago? Well, look, the whole nation building comes from using food as medicine because it makes you fertile, but it then discounts the parent, because then the parent's only good for a certain amount of time, but in different frequencies, the parent is only good for a short amount of time. But even the child is only good for a short amount of time in this environment. That's the thing. When you have frequencies, when you're using food as medicine, even in slower frequencies, you set the stage for someone to get comfortable using food as medicine, and then in a higher frequency, then you get set up to fail. Because you were never conditioned to be like, you know what, I need to release the demons, I need to not use any medicine, and I need to pull out the programming and eat all food and acclimate to the environment. And so just because they used food as medicine for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, you see what's going on in China. They have 1 billion people that they have to feed, and they are right now running out of water in certain areas. They were a technological boom for a certain amount of time because they had access to so much water. But now when you have climate change and water is scarce, well, now the people who are alive have to stay alive, and the ones that don't have what it takes are going to be recycled back into the universe. And so, excuse me. And so, the whole JJ world is about releasing that programming and then acclimating to your environment, and then eat whatever available food that's in the food supply. Eat everything. Don't discriminate. People can't, nowadays, with the way things are, you can't afford to be discriminatory in your food intake. That's the issue, is that people are so discriminatory and they can't afford to be. And so, yeah, the Chinese and all the advanced civilizations, yeah, they were advanced because they were nation building, but just because you're advanced in certain areas doesn't mean that you're going to survive a climate change if you don't change the way you do things. And so, yeah, my book is out, and again, I will find out tomorrow. But I just needed to take a break today. The fact that I saw that email, I couldn't really ignore it because I needed to talk to my consultant at some point tomorrow. And I wanted you guys to have access to the information or access to whatever I wrote and see that it's there, that it's out, and it looks really good. My hair, I don't like my hair, but oh well. You know, I was like, okay, well, I'll just get on Facebook Live today. But I really wanted to take a break today, but that's okay. I'll just get on and be like, okay, here it goes. What's going on? And it was so like perfect because the dog took a crap. I sent off that email to my publishing consultant or whatever. And then my husband called one like, why didn't you call me back? I'm like, well, shit, I was sleepy. I'm just like, and it stinks like shit right now in my living room. I really got to clean it up. But hey, sugar. I mean, it's cleaned up, but it's all stinky. And here's my dog. I mean, here's the sugar. And she looks great. And you can see that little thing right here, but it's going to, it's going to eventually it'll be part of her. But yeah, she's looking good. She's looking good. And you can't take away parts of you. You can't cut out entities out of your body. That's your evolution. Okay? I mean, and that's what because when people caught things early, they used food as medicine and then stopped the body from releasing so that entity cannibalized them. And when that cannibalization could look like the face the face being cannibalized, being sucked in, collagen, being eaten up, and then osteoporosis, and then a frail frame like you see the older Chinese people. They look like they're being eaten alive by something that's inside of them. Well, that's so many years of Chinese medicine. Okay, you look at India, so many years of Indian medicine. And you look at all the different countries out there, all over the world, that have shamans, and we're doing so many drugs to deal with their issues or to get a higher purpose. They didn't release that fecal plug. They didn't eat all food in the food supply. And so then the shamans became very elderly and eventually pass away. And so we're now introducing something completely different that even the Chinese haven't even done. That's what's really crazy, because I was adopted and Vietnam was taken over by China many times. So I have probably Chinese DNA in me. So I do have some of the Chinese genotypical characteristic and phenotypical characteristics. Though, yes, Vietnam is my country of origin, but like anything, Genghis Khan and all those of the past, they didn't have any borders. Everyone was proliferating, their seeds and their eggs and having children and dropping their semen all over the place. And so, the fact that now we have figured out in America, the melting pot, we took everything from all over the world, put it together in America in a genome, in biotech, in industry, and all different types of industries, and then we apply so much stress to all the people in America, all the humans, and even in England and Scotland and Ireland and all the West. I mean, Australia, New Zealand, we've all been under some kind of MK Ultra and some kind of high stress situation that's going to bring out the best in us, or it's going to bring out the worst in us. Okay? And I would rather, my JJ crowd, that your situation brings out the best in you, not the worst in you. Okay? And so that's, oh my gosh. It's, yeah, it And so I don't want to make it, I mean, I don't want to make a big deal out of this book launch, but I want to make it enough of a deal where that you have access to this information, because all this information is for free when you think about it. But I want people to know that there is something written that's in an organized form that you'll have for forever, that at least gives you an idea of what the West is made up of. Because even if I'm not mentioning like all the cultures out there, America is a representation of every culture out there. So America, when you think about it, is the fulcrum, is the center point of what's going on with this whole reset. Even though I know we say, oh yeah, with the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and those over there in Europe and England, but they used America, the last great experiment. And then from those experiments in America bled over into other countries. Okay, and then of course it gave Sweden and Switzerland and all those northern European countries, the Nordic countries, gave them the opportunity to look at the outcome of the experiments and what came of them. And so did it happen in Europe first and America? Well, America was the last great experiment. America is based out of Europe. We are England's colonized, another colony of England. Okay? And so so I say a USA, I don't mean USA is so special. We're just another arm of the Hydra of England. It's okay. And so when you look at England and you look at London, and they have such a melting pot of people with their accents, a lot of English accents. It trips me out when I hear someone that speaks, English, like real English, not real, like, well, you know what I mean? Like English that's like English with that accent, London. And they're like Indian or they're African or some other, I'm like, wow, that's such a trip to hear that English accent from a very ethnic person from another country. But they were able to brought over to England and be part of that, and no different than people coming to America and they're from all these different countries and they have an American accent just like me, right? People trip out when they listen to me like, wow, this is this Asian chick with a major American accent, like major. Well, I was brought over here to be innovative. And all of you who are alive, who are adults, you were brought wherever you are, you were raised, you grew up, wherever you are, you grew up and you were made to be whatever you are, and you have every chance to have the best come out of you. That's the thing. That's the whole point of the JJ world, is you can now be the best version of yourself. That the past, when you think about it, doesn't even matter. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. That's the whole thing, is the whole JJ world, is that you can keep reinventing yourself. Like this, I'm in my 3rd book. I'm going to keep this book on the market. And then my next book I'll keep on the market, and that'll be on the market forever. That's me. That's my world. That's the world that I came from. That's the world that I'm inventing. Okay? And that's the whole point of the JJ world, is to reinvent yourself. That yesterday doesn't really matter. Yesterday was just the foundation that you came from, but it fucking gave you life. Now what are you going to do with your life? That's the main thing. What are you going to fucking do with your life? Okay? And so from this point forward, if your life is shit and you feel like shit, it's because you made it shit. If you feel angry at whatever, that's on you now. It's not on whoever did anything to you yesterday or the day before or even, 50 years ago. Now it's time to bring out the best in you, because you have no other fucking choice. You either pass away angry at yesterday, or you pull out the programming, face your fucking demons, and become the best fucking version of yourself, and let that shine on the world. Because I'll tell you, there's so much suffering out there. Why add more to the suffering? There is no reason to add any more suffering to this world than there already is. Let me tell you. And some of you I know are suffering so much, and it might take you to suffer to finally get to the other side. How long will be, I don't know. But at this point, what is it when couples, when they're living together and they're told by their couples therapist that you tell your husband or wife when you're mad, well, I'm mad for about, give me a day to just be mad and be upset. Give me a day. And then you be true to that. You have a day to be pissed off. You have a day to be all angry. You have a day to be just, and then when that day is over, then you switch back and you're like, okay, everything is great. And you've given yourself time to be mad. You've stepped away from the situation. You did what you had to do, and even if it comes out in really crazy ways, but you gave yourself a certain amount of time to be pissed off at the world. You gave yourself a certain amount of time to be sick, to be this, to be that. And sometimes being sick, it's hard to know how long it's going to be. So you really can't put a time frame on sickness. But as far as being mad about the past, about something that someone did or whatever, okay, you give a time frame. It doesn't mean you have to bring anyone back into your life. It just means that you have given yourself time to process whatever emotions and then find ways to pull out the programming and find ways to just deal with it. Let it come to surface, let it come to a head, let it be like all messy in your world, but not so messy that it causes authorities to come and get you. And then you release. And then you now start over again. But this time with a better platform. This time with a better foundation. This time with a better body, mind, and spirit. Oh, Darcy, awesome. Just ordered your book. Can't wait to read it. Thank you, Darcy. That's really great. Okay, and so this is what the JJ world offers, is that we're not looking at freaking civilizations of 6,000 years ago using Chinese medicine, Buddhist medicine, using tinctures and alchemy. When we get to a point where humans are now finally at their original prototypes, so to speak, okay, like back in the 1950s, when everyone was pure and it was like traditional households, and you had your mother who took care of the kids and was cooking and cleaning and washing, and you had the father out there doing his stuff, in the industries, going to work, smoking his cigars. And then you had the MK Ultra, the drug world. And so they took these wholesome people and innovated the crap out of them. They took wholesome people from the 1950s, 1940s, 1950s, and figured out how to innovate them. And then you have the 1960s and 1970s. You had CCR, Jerry Garcia, you had the Beatles, you have Elvis Presley, you have all these great singers and songwriters and writers, no different than the Renaissance period, when they had a burst of innovation, a burst of creativity. Okay? But that was on mostly wholesome bodies that were able to be innovated. Okay, now we're in 2022, and I'm remembering the 1980s and sort of the 1970s. And we have been over-innovated. I'm like almost 50 years old. Over-innovation will start glitching. The alchemy, all the using food as medicine, all the things that we did back in the 1960s and 70s and 80s is now going to turn things, it's going to have the opposite effect. Because we're in a closed system, over-innovated, and it was like we were touching flowers that were closing up every single time a human touched them. The defense mechanisms. So humans are closing up, and when they close up, they have all this diversity trapped inside of them that is cannibalizing them. Yeah, you can't afford to do food as medicine. You can't afford to do any more drugs until you become pure and wholesome, and you release the demons, pull out the programming, eat all food in the food supply. Okay? And so Yeah. And so and so this book is just a representation. It's not like, anything new. It's not anything, I mean, it's something to celebrate, yes, because it's an accomplishment on my end. Let me tell you, I'm relieved that this book is done, but I do have another book. Hey, Sugar, what are you doing? Hi. Hi, Sugar. Oh, you're jumping off the end of this. But there's still more work to be done. It's not over yet. But I want to make sure that this book is out there. Of course. But now I'm past this book now. Now I'm like, okay, now I'm on to giving birth to yourself. Because once you acknowledge that you're 69 trillion Hydra, and that reproduction is great, but reproduction also comes from senescence, comes from the body deteriorating. Okay? You better have something kind of you better figure out how much senescence is going on in your body, mind, and spirit. And if it's that much senescence going on, then what are you reproducing and what are you feeding? What kind of monster are you feeding? And so, yeah, so when my dog released, and she actually, that was her first waterfall. That was her first diarrhea today. Out of all this ever since, November, when I was power feeding her, all that stuff, then I did, release her anal glands and all that yellow stuff came out. But I've been power feeding her everything, and she would have little pasty poops that come out. Okay. This is the first time where I heard her fart today, because I knew whenever she sneezed, she farted. I'm like, oh, something going on. Something is being pushed out. And it finally did. So now, what does it mean now? It means, well, I don't know, I'm in uncharted territory. I don't know what it means. What am I going to do? Am I doing anything differently right now that she finally did that whole diarrhea thing? I'll still give her some of that bottle, but I'm trying to now encourage her to eat out of her food dish with the soft food and with the kibble. But she might not be hungry right now. But I put some of that stuff that's in the bottle over her food. But I will see. I will figure it out. But right now, the frequencies are insane. It's really hot right now. And we have a lot of weather systems coming through, but they're going to be south of us. And I know I'm wearing a sweater and stuff. I need to so we'll see if her pooping like that would develop a turning point. We'll see. I tried to take her a walk. I wanted to see if she would go out on her own, walking, and she didn't want to go out. She didn't want to go out down the stairs outside. She did not want to. I wasn't going to force her. I could have just picked her up. I'm like, I'm not going to force you. I want her to want to go outside in the front and go for a walk on a leash. I want her to want to do it. I don't want to make her do it. So we'll see. But right now, I'm keeping watch of her weight. And that was a good sign, seeing her body release that much stuff. She looks great. You look great, Sugar. And tomorrow when I talk to my publishing consultant and everything at around 10 or so, I'll have more. I'll have a time. Well, I'll know more about when Amazon or when the ebook and all that stuff. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I guess the book will be expensive if you're ordering it from overseas and based out of where it's being distributed from. And so, but $19.99 for the soft cover, $29 for the hardcover. Yeah, well, yeah. I made it that way. I made it that way because I think I'm worth it. Doesn't mean that you have to buy it. Okay, so I know it can be expensive, but I've got to put some kind of worth. And $20 for that was 2 years plus of pain, sweat, and tears. Blood, sweat, and tears. And you're I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how to do stuff, but you're seeing what I did. I mean, I'm pointing out what I did. I have an actual little schedule of what I do. and then you get in the background. And I don't make everything so specific. I don't make any absolutes out of that book because you can't. I mean, I make inferences about particle accelerators. I make inferences about the Georgia Guidestones. I make inferences about a lot of stuff, but I don't say anything absolute because you can't prove anything. And you got to leave room for speculation. You got to leave room for someone to interpret how they want to interpret it. You got to leave room for an imagination. And right now, in our society, people don't. People in our society, even myself, I can come from absolutes. Our society loves to come from absolutes. They're doing this purposely. They're doing that purposely. Potentially, yeah. But it can't. This is the cause for all this. This is the cause for all this. Okay, potentially. And even if it was, even if the intentions, like when you see, here's the thing. When you're trying to take away the pain and you're using some very aggressive elements that, and for some people would be poison to them, well, you're choosing to use aggressive elements that to some people would be poison to them. And then when it's poison to you, because now you are taking on the characteristic of someone who would say that that element is poison to you, at one point it was something that you wanted. And then now that your body is changed, and now you want something different, can you really blame? Can you really blame them for using what that you were used to using to take away your pain, to take away the suffering, to take away everything? Can you really blame them for using that to take away your pain and suffering, which basically is rest in peace? Can you blame the system for doing that? No, you can't blame the system for doing that when you've given them that allowance to do that 50 years ago. That's why people can't get mad at the system, because they've allowed it to happen for such a long time because they didn't know any better. Now that you know better, you still can't blame the system for using what you've done for years against you. You can't blame them. So now it's time to redirect. Now it's time to realize that you're not in the same body. You have to now finally do something different than what you've done before. What's insanity? Doing the same thing over again, expecting a different result? That's what insanity is. And so the JJ world is doing exactly everything different than the system, but still abide by the laws. Still abide by the laws, still live within the law. But we're doing everything different than what the system has offered you for years, that you've accepted for such a long time, even dying. When you accept death as the end result, then you can't get mad when they have increased the particles to give you what you want, what you already wanted and accepted 50 years ago, 20 years ago. Except you didn't realize that the atmosphere had a lot to do with why you didn't pass away sooner, why it wasn't poisoned back then. See, you didn't realize the environment had everything to do with how effective or ineffective those cures were. Okay? And so now you got to know the bigger picture, that yeah, high frequency and low frequency environments are everything. They will determine efficacy or lack thereof. And what used to work before relative to intention will work the opposite in this environment. And it's happening. And so, so it's like, it's such weird, it's so weird, once the book is finally done, I went through it and I'm like, okay, I found like 50 errors on my end that I was like, they had to get corrected. And I actually took more time on this looking at the proofs than I did in my last book. My last book, I was really, I mean, I was connected but disconnected, because it was like right, 2020 or 2019, we had the freaking pandemic start, and I was trying to evolve from the last book, the Julie Juice Protocol, and then go into the evolution. And then I knew then I had to do another book that even had to go. Like it seems like it's just been ongoing. And then there's going to have to be one more book after this called Giving Birth to Yourself, because all the information that's in this book right now, all the information was the last 2 years. It was the last 2 years of my life. Okay? And it's so easy when you're not discriminated against food. That's what makes it so easy, is when you don't have any food discrimination against anything. But that's the thing, is that in our world here in Ohio, we get a lot of frequencies. Some of you out there don't get as many frequencies, so you don't understand why we can't afford to discriminate against food. We can't afford to be vegans and vegetarians. And some of you don't even know when the frequencies are going to be turned up where you are. That's why you can't afford to be discriminatory against food. Because maybe in my area, they turn up the freaking frequencies so much that you can't afford to be a vegan or vegetarian. And in other areas, the frequencies are not as turned up, but then maybe in the next year or even the next couple, whatever, the frequencies will be turned up. You're so used to your vegan and vegetarian stuff, and then something happens, and then they turn up the frequencies, and you don't have enough of what it takes. Your lack of diverse food is going to work against you because you don't have what it takes. But you'll never know that's the reason, because, you've discriminated against food. Well, can you use soy proteins in lieu of meat? I guess you could, but here's the thing. I mean, if you want to win a war, here's the thing. There's a war out there. And your enemy has all the artillery. But then you only want to have pop rockets and Nerf balls and water guns. But your enemy has every single tank, every single AK-47, every single gun, every single everything. And you only have Nerf balls and water guns. When you're in a war, wouldn't you want to have all the arsenal in your storage facility? Why would you not? And that's the get to understand the war that you're in. People don't know what kind of war they're in. You're in a frequency war, and your proteins are what's being energetically zapped out of existence. You can't afford to be discriminatory against food. You can't afford to be political about food, but people are, because they've been so privileged. They were in a low frequency environment. They're so privileged because of their upbringing, their background, their lifestyle, their belief systems, maybe even money. Their spiritual belief systems. Oh gosh, you can't do this, you can't do that. But now we're in a whole new world. All that shit has to go out the window. You have to arm yourself literally with every single food in the food supply that's being offered out there. Eventually, when they do go to Beyond Meat, where it's like all vegetarian meat, fine, I get it. That's all that's available, and that's all we're going to eat. And we'll all evolve to that. But right now, I'm in a very high frequency environment. And when you're in a high frequency environment like the USA right now, because we're the last greatest experiment, we can't afford to be picky about our food. We can't afford to be discriminatory about our food. We can't afford to be vegans and vegetarians. We can't. We cannot afford to be that way. But some countries who are in a lower frequency environment, but they don't know if they'll be in a high frequency environment later on. They don't know. And you can't assume that because you're in a low frequency environment right now and it's not affecting you, that it's not going to affect you later on down the road. And you're just being set up for slaughter. You're just being set up to kill. That's the thing. To kill. I don't know. Sugar, you want to go outside? Come here. Come here, Sugar. Come here, Sugar. Sugie. No? Okay. So I'm just trying to prepare you guys that when you figure out the war that you're in, you have to set yourself up correctly for it. And that means you have to have all the food supply, and you have to pull out the programming. Because that means then you're over-innovated when you have too much programming in your body. Come on, Shiggy. And so, yeah, it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to change the way they eat. And they don't realize that that's the war that they're in. It's a frequency war that your eating habits and your bathroom habits are what's in the crosshairs. That's what you got to realize. You can't assume that your area is not going to be experiencing high frequencies, or they're not working against you, because they are, and they will be. No one's immune. Now, as far as the King and Queen of England and all that, and all those high levels, they're in areas. Some of them, I don't even want to assume that they're even being spared all the different frequencies. Okay. We may have even heard that the monarchy is going to be, going to the wayside when you think about it. That it will be more parliamentary. It'll be more congressional type. It'll be more like a New World Order. You're not going to have the king of the world. You're going to have a council of people. A council of people who are now administrating. And then all those kings and queens are more of the figureheads, or more of like Hollywood stars than anything else. And so even then, you can't even assume that they're even safe from all these different frequencies. You really got to feed for this new environment. And again, you want to have all of the arsenal. You don't want to be picking Nerf guns and water guns and Nerf balls to be in your arsenal. You want to have the heavy artillery. Okay? And if that's not, if you don't understand the war that you're in, then people are just going to be, that's what's going on. People are dying. They're dying suddenly because they don't understand the war that they're in. And so that's my main takeaway. Yeah, Banked, you are one of those that are kind of dealing with the war. Processed actually is better for you. The fact that you're eating vegetarian, you're not getting the complex nutrition. You know what processed is? It's like me taking all of the foods that I put together, the flour, the dog food, the vegetables, the eggs, the cornmeal, the baby food, the fish, and guess what I did? I processed it. Guess what I put it in? I put it in a blender, and I processed it. But when I made those little cakes, I added the chicken, I added the corn, the vegetables, the milk, the dog food, and I cooked it. And then I even put that in the blender. That's called processed food. You see, those that are against processed food have a weak immune system. They can't process food because they don't have enough of what it takes to break the food down, because they have old programming. That's who is being sacrificed out there. Come on, sugar. Am I saying eat chips every single day of your life and that's it? Processed food is not bad for you. Eating something that is not FDA approved, like cleaners that are under your sink, yeah, that's bad for you. But no one's promoting eating cleansers. If something is FDA approved regardless, it's relatively safe. But then if you can't handle the food, then maybe it means that you have something that is in deficit. Maybe you lack the necessary enzymes in your body. I don't care how much probiotics you think you're taking. If you have an issue with food, regardless, if you have a political issue with food, if you have any issue with food, you have deficits, and it's been programmed into you, and that was the weapon that was held, that was against you a long time ago. The groundwork has been laid for years. You know how hard it is to break someone of their programming, especially around food? It is so hard. People are willing to die for their beliefs. They're willing to die for their beliefs. That's how embedded the programming is in politics, in religions, and in all the scientific dogmas. When you're willing to die for your belief, when you're willing to starve yourself to death to make a point, that was the intention. And so it's not about being a vegan or vegetarian. It's about understanding that you're bringing fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals together, regardless of how it's packaged. It could be packaged in a meat form or it could be packaged in a beyond meat form, like what Bill Gates is developing. Either way, I don't really care. As long as I get the fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals, as long as I understand I got to pull out the programming, like my dog released a lot of the programming on her own today, because I've been helping her, I've been expressing her anal glands, and finally today, this afternoon, her body just pushed out so much stuff. Okay? And so that's the thing, is that you gotta have all of the necessary fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals, and it must be in a diverse pack. And so at this point, until they give you something that is like a meat out there, you eat the fucking meat because you need the arsenal. You can't assume that you're in a low frequency environment, that you're not going to be affected by things, because let me tell you, people are dying suddenly who otherwise people thought were healthy. And you really want to be, if you haven't really understood how to be sick, like I was really fucking sick the last 2 years. I've been sick almost every day the last 2 years. Okay? If you haven't been sick, like literally sick, and you're a vegetarian and a vegan, that's a died suddenly situation. You can't assume that, you just can't assume that the arsenal that you are working with right now and have is going to help you in this world. It might have been in the last world because you already assumed you were going to die someday. So you're only shooting for living longer than that meat-eating dude over there. But now times have changed. The meat-eating dudes are probably going to live longer than the vegans and vegetarians, because the vegans and vegetarians don't have what it takes to deal with this environment. It's so aggressive. And I can't even speak to how aggressive it is in your environment, because people are holding the line until they don't. You realize those that died suddenly, everything was great in their world, nothing was wrong. Their lifestyle, their belief system, everything was right until it wasn't. Until it wasn't. And so getting sick is the path to longevity, because it means that you can handle changing in a very aggressive environment. And it is right now. It's fucking aggressive. And I tell you, I want to take a break today, and nope, no break for Jillian. Of course, I had to go and check my email. But when I have information and I'm sitting on information, I can't just hold out for a book launch to go and build up all this, no, it's, here, if you've been watching me, here's some information. Here's more information. Now it's more organized. Now do what you want with it. You're being given every single, thought process in the world, because all over the internet, there's 1 billion books out there you can read. And I'm just one of 1 billion. And you make your choices. You make your choices. But I would hate to have people in my JJ world die suddenly when they didn't have to go down that road. I would hate for that to happen. But the only way you know that you can handle this environment where you don't die suddenly is when you actually get sick. When you actually face getting sick. And sometimes getting sick means that you take food that you ordinarily would not eat. And if you don't want to eat, see, that's the thing, with people I knew in my past, who only ate fish and chicken and didn't eat red meat and didn't even drink milk. And they grew up with an eating disorder. They grew up with anorexia. Okay? I couldn't make them eat meat or a hamburger or anything for the world. They were so programmed for such a long time. And they they believed in the pharmaceuticals on such a level. Like, love the pharmaceuticals. And you can live on pharmaceuticals for years. For years. People have. Okay, so when you think of someone who, who isn't completely vegan or vegetarian, but is more of like a fish and chicken, pescatarian, fish, chicken, okay, but never ate red meat ever again. Used to eat red meat raw a long time ago, then stopped doing that, and then that person turned to just chicken and fish, and rice and vegetables, fruit, and also on pharmaceuticals. Cancer scare at some point in the down the road. Has other autoimmune or circulatory issues. Okay? And so, they weren't equipped. They were equipped for the world in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, but they were not equipped for this world. And you have to equip yourself for the world that you're in, not the world that you came from. That's the issue with generations, that the generations that live together, they don't understand each other because they came from different worlds. That's why the boomers and the millennials have a hard time understanding each other, because they have different ways of looking at the world and different ways, different work ethics. But nowadays, you don't want to work yourself to death, because some people are so at the surface that if they even put any more blood, sweat, and tears to what they're doing, they'll die on the job. And some people, they actually need to stay home and get a fucking job paycheck from the government and start reversing the issues that they have, so they can survive and teach their kids how to survive this new environment, because it's fucking aggressive. It is so aggressive. And food is the weapon in your arsenal that you need. Food is your defense system. And you starve yourself from certain foods because of politics. Because of your politics, you are shooting yourself in the foot. But again, if you're all into the industries of hijack this and they did this and GMO and process, I'm sorry I can't get through to you. I wish you well. And that's why we're in a Hunger Games. So you put your stuff on Facebook. I put my stuff on Facebook. I hope you survive. I don't want to be the one to win, Bengt Larson. I don't want to be the one to win. Okay? But I think I have a better chance than you when you think about it. But then you have to look at the environment. If you're in a low frequency environment, you might live a long time being a vegan vegetarian. But who's to say your environment won't be turned up at some point? And so that's what the Hunger Games is now looking at people's Facebooks and what they're doing. And what they're doing. And the system is going to see what's going on with people. Okay? But again, you can't assume that your area, you can't assume anything. So, everything is great until it's not. That's the thing. Everything is great. Your politics, your religion, your science is great until it's not. What do you mean until it's not? When you don't exist anymore. But you know how I know I can survive the frequencies? Because I got fucking sick. That's how I know I can survive the frequencies. That I listen to indicators. I eat all food in the food supply. I'm willing to suffer. I am willing to suffer like you would not believe. I am willing to suffer. And I want to put my money where my mouth is too. Suffering is the path to longevity. That's what I found out from the Rosicrucians, through the Jewish mystics. Their suffering gave them so much insight. So much. And they're the ones that devised all the activism against food. So if you want to know who developed your thought process and belief system, it was the Rosicrucians. That was their weapon. That was their arsenal, is to brainwash population into thinking so many thoughts. Into thinking that food is poison, into thinking that processed food is poison, into thinking that air is poison, that water is poison. When you think about it, the water is mineralized because the Hydra are so excessively energetic. I even put that in my book. That the Hydra are so energetic that they have to mineralize the water to calm it down, or else that life will cannibalize you and cause you to go into evolution that you're not prepared for. That's why they mineralize the water. But look at the campaigns, Alex Jones and all the different people out there in the conspiracy world. Oh my God, the water is fluoride's poison. You see how insidious those campaigns are. And they started somewhere. From all the think tanks out there trying to figure out how to control the population without turning back to 1945. They make it by your hand. You starve yourself. You think everything is poison. You deny yourself food. That's how they're able to get you, banked Larson, is when you think food is poison. When you think processed food is poison. When you're only eating very simple food sources, not very complex, that is needed in this complex world of high frequencies and so many different Hydra or diseases all over the environment, the stem cells that are floating around in your atmosphere. And so it's interesting watching the world. But I figured out that the environment is really, that the actual frequencies in the environment can make you or break you. Regardless. That when the environment changes, like the frequencies, particle accelerators, Wi-Fi, HAARP, CERN, when the particle waves become more frenetic and become more aggressive, you have to become more aggressive in your eating, more aggressive in your suffering, more aggressive in your feeding, more aggressive in your fight to survive. And if you're not more aggressive than that, and you're more aggressive into denying yourself food, into denying the efficacy of all food, you're taking away intelligence. The fact that I power fed my dogs so much processed food, in the can, pedigree, the canned fish, the kibble, soaking it all in milk, taking the chicken, putting it together in there. Yep, I put everything, and even the milk supplement, the RX supplement, and I blended it down. I saved my dog. Because at some point, she was fine for the last, she wasn't like fine, but she was going downhill for the last 2 years. I didn't realize how downhill it was because she was still holding the line, but she's getting skinnier and skinnier. And it was Thanksgiving when things, if I didn't get aggressive in Thanksgiving, she would have died. When you let yourself get to that point where you have to then be so aggressive in eating, and even the foods that you have right now are not enough. Because I wasn't giving her the stuff that I've been giving her the last couple, because I didn't even know that was the issue, is that she wasn't eating enough because the food that I was giving her wasn't, because she had babies inside of her, microbial babies. It's when I finally gave her the foods that I wasn't giving her, because I didn't know about it, was when she turned around and redirected. If you want to get to that point where you have to then force yourself to eat meat so you can fucking survive, so you can save yourself, you want to wait to that point, you may not survive, because remember, your politics, religion, your science are that embedded into your belief system. And that's the depopulation agenda. Industrial food is industrial food, whatever you want to call it. Just don't put industrial in front of it and just say food. If you're skeptical of food, then that's your own issue. However it's made, it doesn't matter how it's made. As long as it's FDA approved, your body should deal with it. If your body can't deal with it, then you have issues. It's not the food's fault, it's your fault. You're skeptic because that's the politics, that's the religion, that's the scientific dogmas. But if I hadn't taken the foods that I didn't ordinarily give my dog and power fed her like I have been the last few weeks, she would have died. So food was what saved her, not all the hoity-toity, fruity-tooty shit that's in the religions out there, but food is what saved my dog, and me releasing her anal glands. Which that's what I did too the last 6 years, was basically pull out the programming and eat all food in the food supply. Everything, Bent. I eat all different types of food. Everything. Nothing is poison. If you're going to put a whole bunch of sodium fluoride in a can and drink it, that's like drinking, or it's like only eating salt and that's it with no water. You're trying to make an argument that is not an argument, because FDA approved aspartame also is FDA approved. It's made for that food. If I drink a soda that has it in there, I'm not going to freak out. But if you freak out, it's because you've been compartmentalized. The fact that you even know about that means you're watching all those holistic magazines telling you that shit's poison. That's the depopulation agenda. The fact that you know about aspartame. That's all we had when I was a kid. I wasn't given sugar too much. I wasn't given salt as a kid. All I had was sugar-free shit. But if I had more of a diverse diet with a lot more sugar and a lot more salt and a lot more everything, I probably would have been a healthier kid. But no, I was fucking sick as a child. But the fact that you only know about aspartame, and that's what you pointed out, says that you are a victim of their depopulation campaign. Everybody in the holistic world is. Holistic, holocaustic, holistic. That's what you don't realize, is that we're not in 1945. We're in 1945 on fucking steroids. And right there is the proof. You are living proof of how they turned, how they recreated depopulation in a different way, where now it's you are choosing. Because when you compartmentalize the ingredients in the food supply, everything is poison when it doesn't have a balancing force. Salt can be detrimental to someone who doesn't have water attached to it, right? When you get thrown into a salt bin with no water, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be sucked dry from the salt. So yeah, that's poison. But you add water to it, oh wait, now it is energy. See, that's what people don't understand chemistry. They don't get chemistry. They get lost in the compartmentalization of the holistic, of the allopathic industry, of the depopulation agenda. And that's been embedded in us for years. For years. Shit, I came from the holistic world. I came from that world because I was questioning my own sickness. Didn't even know what the hell it was until I realized what it was. I had an entity inside of me that was running the hell out of me that finally came to surface last summer. My dog is run by an entity still that I'm still waiting for it to calm down. And it is. But it's still there. It's as big as a golf ball now, but it's getting softer. And so imagine how many entities are growing right now in this climate change in people's bodies that they don't even realize. How many colony forming units of entities that are working against them. Stem cells. And they don't have what it takes to actually fight them. And they're eating you out from house and home, and you're not feeding your babies correctly. You're not even breaking your food down. When someone, I don't even know your size, it doesn't even matter. Obese, even holding the line looking relatively healthy, or emaciated. You know, you could still be mostly entity that you could be one day away from them shutting down your whole vital organ system. That's the thing. People don't realize until they actually feel the sickness and actually suffer and feed the demons and remove the programming, they don't really know from one day to the next. They don't. I'm telling you, everything is great until it's not. The only way you know it's going to be great is when you actually feel the suffering. When you know you can get through the suffering. The suffering is the path to longevity. The suffering is the path to peace. You have to get sick in order to get well. And that's a concept that is so foreign to people that people refuse to get sick. And when they refuse to get sick, they die. And so if you want to be well and you want to be relatively peaceful and you want to get rid of that demon inside of you, you have to be sick. But I can't tell individuals that. I couldn't even say it in my book that you have to get sick. I just said, hey, I went through all the sickness. I didn't try to stop it. Ate all food in the food supply. Had no discrimination. Pulled out the programming. Cough, sneeze, blow my nose. Laid in bed, rested. And here I am today. Here I am today. But you're different than me. No, I'm not. That's the other smoke and mirrors, that you think that I'm so different than you. No, I'm not different than any of you. The fact that I released all of my programming says that, yeah, I'm different. Yeah, that's where I'm different. Yes, I released the programming and you're still programmed. That's the only difference. And so you have a choice to release the programming, feed your body, and build up your arsenal with all the food in the food supply. Or you'll pick your Nerf guns and water pistols over the enemy's artillery And they have a huge, huge energetic artillery that the only thing that you're able to defend yourself with is food. Because that energy machine, when it kicks up, when that machine kicks up and it starts revving its engines, you're fucked if you don't have what it takes. You're fucked if you don't have what it takes. And so I'm trying to give you what it takes. And it's controversial, yes. Anything new, anything that goes against what has been programmed into us in the old world into a new world is going to be controversial. But the ones that can see past the controversy can understand now you have to take into account how aggressive the environment is, and the engines are running continuously now. My tub is continuously, until my husband goes and fixes it, it is continuously dripping. And it happened before. Actually, yeah, because I've been here since 2019, and shit happened started 2019. So sometime in 2019, when I got here, in February 2019, they were playing with the frequencies, and it made my faucet drip the way it's been dripping. Now it's on a continuous fucking drip. Because we didn't fix it, it just stopped one day. It just miraculously stopped. I'm like, how does that happen? I'm like, oh, the environment. The environment actually influences my plumbing. So this should be interesting for John, how the environment can actually influence plumbing and water. But absolutely. And so now with my tub dripping the way it is until my husband fixes it, it's telling you that the engines are continuously running in my environment. And the only arsenal I have is food. That's it. Food and rest and sleep and yeah, and release and suffering. So the Hydra, they run it all. The Hydra are the foundation of everything. How old? You don't put an age banked. You don't put an age. You just keep living. You just keep living and adapting. When there is no possibility for life in my area, if there is an atom bomb that completely decimates my area, then I'll be dead. But if the energy just fluctuates and I keep evolving with it and I keep fluctuating with it, what would I die from aside from a freak accident? You don't ask how old are you planning to become. That's someone who's programmed in a lifespan. You're programmed to think people die someday. That's your issue. That's not your issue, that's your belief system. I just keep living. I don't even want to count the years, but people do. It's a frame of reference to say, hey, this is how old I am. So it gives credibility to a life experience. If anything, that's really all it is. Age is just credibility to life experience. It has nothing to do with your biophysical, whatever, but it does have to do with biophysical if you're in a programmed biophysical atmosphere and belief system. Atmosphere means like academia. And so I plan to fluctuate with my environment, fluctuate with the economic times, fluctuate with everything. I don't resist anything. And so age is nothing but a number. And age has to do with life experience. And you can't get life experience. But they say, okay, I don't know, Bank. Here's the thing. No, but they say the first one to become 200 already is born. Okay, they say a lot of things. They say also Jesus is walking the earth. They also say Elvis is over there. They also say Michael Jackson is not dead. They also say, what else? They also say that Keanu Reeves is just a clone. They say a lot of fucking things. You are your only proof. Don't believe what goes on over there. You are your proof. You don't even have to believe me. But you will be your own proof. You will be your, what do you call it? You will be your own self-fulfilling prophecy. And so I don't believe anything out there what people say about somebody else. Either I experience it and understand it, physically, conceptually, intellectually, or I don't. Bank. But that's the thing, you know, you can't believe all that shit out there. That's all the fucking smoke and mirrors. Now you gotta live your life. Now you gotta live your life and either take on information and grow another arm of the Hydra, or you can keep losing arms of your Hydra. Okay, you can keep losing your arms of the Hydra until you have no more arms left, and there's only one arm, and then like 9 lives. That's the whole thing with the cat with 9 lives. What are the 9 lives? Oh, it's the arms of the Hydra. So grow another arm of the Hydra. What does that mean? Grow another thought process and foster it. And you still have the other ones around you. Okay, those haven't fallen off yet because they're still viable. But you can still, because when the environment changes, back to a lower frequency, then you can go back to being your vegan and vegetarian and have skepticism around industrial foods. Okay. And then when the environment changes, then you're like, okay, I have no more skepticism around industrial foods. I'm going to eat industrial food because it's going to save me in a higher frequency environment. And so every arm of the Hydra is your evolution to change and fluctuate with the environment. That's why I'm another arm of the Hydra. Because in this environment, your politics, your religion, your belief system, all that shit, and politics, religion, science, all that stuff needs to modify and be upgraded to this environment. And then when the environment calms down and we're down to 500 million people, if that's exactly what it's going to be, you know, the Georgia Guidestones, then you can go back to your other arm and play your whole, you know, whatever games you're playing. Okay? But you have to be able to adapt and change and evolve and mutate. If you don't, you keep resisting that, then okay, good luck. You got to know the world that you're in, not the world that you came from, because it's changed. They told you climate change is going to happen, and it's here. Climate change is here. Now you have to change the way you do things and and what you eat. Now you got to eat everything. You can't afford to be on your diets and politicize food. You can't afford to. That was part of the fourth turning. That was part of the fourth turning. Was 9/11, the stem cells, and then all the holistic diet shit, and questioning the water supply, questioning the air, questioning everything. So as they were terraforming and getting ready for the frequency shift, people were noticing the chemtrails. They were noticing all this stuff. Okay, doesn't mean it's poison, but it also means that the environment's going to change and it's going to shift, and those frequencies are going to impact those particles and make it more aggressive. Every single cloud that you see is condensed forms of Hydra energy. When you see the green and the yellow and the red on your Doppler screen, that's energy. And right now, it's highly energetic. All weather patterns are energy. It's Hydra. Now you got to feed the Hydra. Minerals are what calms down the Hydra. That's why they mineralize the food. So when you're like, oh, I can't have processed food, they mineralize it so that way the life doesn't fucking cannibalize you, banked. So you have a chance to redirect. Because people don't want to be evolving all the time, but in this environment, they have to. In this environment, people are evolving all the time, and they're dying from evolution because they don't know how to support it correctly. They're dying from their cancers, their disease, their chronic illnesses, their autoimmune disorders. They're dying from evolution because they don't know how to support it, because they've been scared away from food. They've been suffering their whole life, and now they want to have no more suffering. And so they're going back to their dentist's office, or going back to their doctor's office, or going back to all their diets and their religions and their politics and their scientific dogmas to help them deal with the suffering, because they can't handle the suffering. They were never trained to handle suffering. You got to know that suffering is a path to longevity. Suffering says that you're alive. I purposely made myself suffer by dealing with my stupid trolls. They're not stupid. But I purposely put myself out there to deal with trolls because I knew that I had to get that energy and I had to suffer through it. When I didn't realize that Dr. Phil was actually was going to work against me. I thought all the way up to the point when I was on, before I even got, there's a seat at the end of the right before you get on stage, where I was sitting and listening to him lead in. And when I heard what he was saying as he was leading in, that it wasn't going to be a puff piece for Jillian, it was going to be a slam piece for, oh shit, Jillian better be on her freaking defense. I realized that I had to now put up. I had to go out there and I had to just say what I had to say. And I had to defend myself all to the end. I had to. And so when you put yourself in uncomfortable positions, such as being on a firing line in a snake pit like the Dr. Phil show, you're forced to either survive or die. That's literally what happened. Is I was either going to defend myself and be true to everything that I was saying, or I was going to fold up on that stage and have to be taken to a ranch. Okay? Those were the only two choices I had. And it could have gone either way. I could have folded up on that stage and said, oh, okay, you're right, I'm wrong, you guys are right. I could have done that, but no. I said, you know what? I know exactly what I have. I know what you guys are doing. Okay? And so I suffered through that. And I suffered the backlash even thereafter. The crazy ass emails, the comments, the private messages. I suffered through all that. I suffered sitting in my house feeling so sick. Why couldn't even get out of bed? And I have a dog that I have to take care of. I have a husband I have to take care of. I have things I have to take care of. And I'm in bed. And I'm in the shower pulling out the programming. What does it mean? I'm digging in my sphincter and pulling out the fecal programming. That it's not just one little fecal programming. It's like over time, because the body has to go and retrieve all the anomalous cells, all the broken cells, all the broken Hydra that were traumatized for many years, that was trapped in the body, and the body had to go and pull them from the different places and then galvanize them into the colon, and then my body has to push them out, but I had to help it with food, all food, and then I also had to help my body also open up the alimentary canal and pull out the programming, which means I had to go and dig into my own sphincter and pull out some of the stuff. Okay? That's an open system. When you're going in and pulling out that programming and then feeding your body and resting and eating all food. I know, right? Dr. He's not that nice, that bad. That's true. But that's the thing. That's the suffering that I went through. And now when I eat food, and now when I go take a shower sometimes and I am coughing it in the middle of the night, I know that I have poop in my system, so I'll pull it out or whatever, or poop it out, or pull it out. Sometimes it's a lot more than what I expect. You know, it won't even be a suffering. It'll just be a relief. And I feel, and I, wash myself and I soap myself up, and everything is clean and great. And then I get into my nice clean clothes and I'm on to start the next day and eat food and think of more things and write stuff and make sure my dog's okay. And yeah, and it's a daily thing. Okay? But the suffering is less and less. But let me tell you, the suffering the last 2 years was insane. The headaches, when I had those headaches and I was coughing so hard, and I was eating steaks too to feed. Now, I didn't break my food down like I did with the blender, like I'm telling some of my people, hey, why don't you break your food down? Because I'm a type O, and so I don't have as many of those stem cell babies, the antigen antibody programming. I may have some, but I can, release some. Should I pull the sphincter on there? Yeah. Right, babe. But that's the thing. It's like, oh, God. I just lost my train of thought. No, I didn't. What was I saying? Shit. What was I saying? Okay. Well, yeah. I'm going to tell everybody to go. I didn't break down the food because people that are like type A's and B's, they have a lot of antigen antibody programming. And so they have to feed those babies. You got to break that food down. Put your food in a blender. Or some of your food, not all of it. Put some of your food in a blender and then some of your food not in a blender. It's that way you feed the parent cells and you feed the baby cells. So that way you can feed both because you have two entities in your body. You have the babies. It's okay, banked. You have babies and you have parent cells. Okay? And that's what was going on with my dog. Because when you have cancer and you have this thing of cancer, those are babies. My dog has a growth that is finally, it's becoming her, but it's a process and I have to feed it or else it'll cannibalize her. And so some of you that have cancer disease and chronic illness, you need to now break your food down. Now, some of you who are type A and type B, if you're not getting sick, like literally getting sick and triggering something, then you might have to break your food down. Okay? And so, trying everything as far as different ways of eating food, all food, and getting it all in your system is the best because you don't know what it is you have inside. So eating one way isn't always going to work. Okay, so breaking your food down. Like, I like eating baby food. I ate a bunch of applesauce last night. But yeah, some of you need to eat baby food and eat parent food together. And some of you need to, some of you will might as well do both. It can't hurt you to have two types of food the way they're weighted down. Now, I didn't put that in the book because I don't want to say, well, everyone should break down their food into a baby food style. No, because I didn't have to. All I did was just pull out the programming. But in my next book about giving birth to yourself, that will be, the options out there. Okay, but I had to say what I was doing. I couldn't say, well, I put my food in a blender, because that would be lying, right? So I didn't say that. But in this next book, I'll be saying, hey, with my dog, because now I have a personal experience. Now I have with my dog, which just happened just recently. I couldn't put that in the book because that would then be a whole nother freaking, But now I can say with my dog, I saved her because I broke her food down. And I gave her food that she ordinarily did not get. So I have, all of this is from personal experience, but you're like, well, anecdotal evidence is not enough. Yeah, it is, because anecdotal evidence is saying that you are not any different than the other person, and that the fact that you don't want to, oh shit. Sure. You can go outside, go potty. I heard her fart. Did she eat that? Okay, sorry. Sorry, I put food out there, and it looks like she ate it, and then I heard her fart, so I don't know if she's gonna take a shit again. But anyways, the fact that anecdotal evidence is that you're, when you don't want to feel pain and trying to stop the pain, then that is why it is that you have issues. And so when you feel the pain, the anecdotal evidence of feeling pain actually is a path to universal longevity if you feed and support that pain. Okay? And so even the programming of not accepting anecdotal evidence is also a depopulation agenda. My dog ate out of her dish. I believe she did. She spit it out too, but she also ate and spit. Oh, she'll figure it out. Sorry, it's been highly energetic. I'm hot right now. Don't worry, John. Don't worry, John. Don't worry, John. So anyway, so food is your arsenal. Food is what's going to save you. Food is what is going to save you. Okay? And so you can't afford to be discriminatory. If anything, just do things slowly. If you have an issue with processed food, like physically you have an issue with processed foods because you have what do you call it? You haven't conditioned yourself to accept all food in the food supply. And people have conditioned themselves not to drink milk. That's why they're lactose intolerant. And how they condition themselves, either they're afraid of it because of their feelings from it, what they feel from it, like the mucus, and also using food as medicine has what caused people to have a diminished assimilation to food. Using food as medicine has done that. And then, yeah, they're dropping babies because their body is deteriorating. And that's why China has 1 billion people. Because of Chinese medicine. I've taken Chinese medicine. You mean eating one food stuff at the time? Break down our food? If you look at my timeline, you'll see I put eggs, I put Gerber baby food, I put milk supplement, the RX, I put Similac, I put carrots and peas and tomatoes, carrots. What else did I put? Oh yeah, her pedigree, beef chunks and lamb chunks. I put all that inside the blender. I blended it up. and I bottle fed her. And fish. I put fish. And I bottle fed her. And I was power feeding her. That's how I broke her food down. Some of you have to break your food down. You have to have complex food. You have to... See, here's the thing. If you have an issue with processed food because you can't process it yourself, then what you need to do is take that processed food, like that hamburger, and Taco Bell, and what else? So your vegetables and all that stuff. Put it in a blender. Add some milk to it. Maybe put a banana in there, some Weetabix, and drink it. Drink it. You might be sick, yes, but that's the sickness that, yes, your body is finally getting the nutrition. You might poop a lot too, because now you're probably breaking that poop plug, that fecal plug. You might have some diarrhea. Abso-fucking-lutely. That's what you want, because that's the body releasing what it doesn't need. But I challenge you to take McDonald's and Taco Bell and Jack in the Box and whatever else is fast food in your country. Put it in a blender, add some milk along with your shiitake mushrooms and whatever, and drink it. All right, so the key thing is breaking the food down to a digestible state until your body has enough enzymes that it can break everything down. My dog has poop. See you around. See you later. And that's the key thing is breaking your food down so that way you can digest it until you have enough enzymes in your body to finally break it down on your own, and then you can pull out any programming that needs to happen because of sluggish immune systems or the environment. So, okay, I'm going to go. This is long, but I got things to do. But I wanted to say that, yes, my book is out there. When it'll be on Amazon, you know, you can Google all that. But you got to realize that you're in a war, an energetic war, that food is going to be your arsenal. Food is going to be your defense system. It's going to be the best defense system. Those that are in Ukraine, they have to leave their area. Those that are in other areas of the world where they are under attack, they have to do something different. They're under real crazy survival situations. But in the West, the food is going to be your arsenal. And getting every type of food inside your system to code everything. And to pull out and push out the fecal plug. Because that's what's programming you. Your body, your mind, and your spirit. And it's programming you against you. So I'm going to take care of my dog. And you guys have a good day. Bye.